The authorities are determined no one will ever find out.
Well, you take a look at the cage, and if you're asking me, it was open from the inside.
It's best you keep out of the way just for now.
Now, stand by to vacate the area with a minimum of fuss.
You have got something to hide here.
A powerful new thriller. Starting next Sunday at 9:05 on Central, Chimera. Watch out.
In 40 minutes, our movie is Turk 182. Now, at 10 o'clock, it's time for the news from ITN.
PowerGen chiefs rise. His chairman says he's underpaid. Yugoslav army warns the ceasefire is close to collapse. Douglas Brand tells how he was tortured by the Iraqis. Major hints the voters could decide on European Union. And Lendl's bid to conquer Wimbledon fails again. Good evening. Labour protested today about another big privatisation pay rise, the 163% awarded to Mr. Ed Wallace, Chief Executive of PowerGen. His pay went up from £76,000 to £200,000 a year. Labour's energy spokesman, Mr. Frank Dobson, said it was the unjustified product of greed. But PowerGen chairman Sir Graham Day said Mr. Wallace was still underpaid. Meanwhile, British Steel directors are said to have taken pay cuts, though how big hasn't been disclosed. The company reported pre-tax profits down from £733 million last year to £254 million. The dividend is up from 8.25 a share to 8.75. British Steel said it would be closing 2 steel plate mills in Motherwell and Scunthorpe within 5 years. Between them, they employ 1,100 people.
PowerGen's decision to award such a large pay increase is a deep embarrassment to its largest shareholder, the government. Under pressure from Labour, Mr. Major last week condemned a much smaller wage award to the Chief Executive of National Power, the other electricity generator. Today's news gave Labour ammunition for a new attack on executive pay.
The public will be very angry that with salary rises of 66% in gas, 100% in water, and now an astonishing 163% in PowerGen, that the government, instead of acting on behalf of the consumer, is even refusing in its citizen charter the prospect of a review into prices, service, and these executive salaries and perks.
It's said that power corrupts. I don't know what PowerGen does, but it certainly sorts out the rich from the poor, the haves from the have-nots. Millions of low-paid people this evening must be wondering what they've done wrong.
PowerGen workers may be angry. They earn an average of £20,000 a year and have accepted a pay offer of 8.9%. But their boss, Ed Wallace's £200,000 a year pay packet and increased salaries for other directors have been defended vigorously by the chairman.
Those salaries were not negotiated, but they were offered to the executive directors as being salaries en route to a market salary. Now, the salaries, in my opinion, which we're paying, including that to the chief executive, are not yet market salaries.
Sir Graham points to salaries at the top 100 companies. Tiny Rowland of Lonro is the highest paid boss with more than £1.5 million. Next is Lord Hanson with almost as much. Bob Baumann of the pharmaceutical giant SmithKline Beecham earns just over £1.2 million a year. Ed Wallace's £200,000 ranks 90th. Sir Robert Scoley at British Steel is taking a cut in his £309,000 a year salary because profits are down. He sees no sign of an improvement in the business climate.
We are in the group that believe the turn-up will come at the, if and when, the beginning of next year, not this year. We are not budgeting for much change this year.
With no rapid economic upturn in prospect, British Steel has predicted further job cuts this year. 4,000 have gone in the last 14 months. When plate mills at DL in Scotland and Scunthorpe are closed, another 1,100 steel workers will lose their jobs. This week in the Commons, Labour will protest about the closures, as well as pressing home their assault on executive pay.
Civil war in Yugoslavia moved a step closer tonight after the army there warned that a ceasefire with the rebel forces in Slovenia could collapse at any moment. Leaders of the Republic, which declared its independence last week, have been warned they face a massive and rigorous military attack if they don't comply fully with the ceasefire agreement. Earlier today there were reports of sporadic fighting in Slovenia, and forces there are said to be blockading federal troops. A three-point plan for peace was put forward by 3 European foreign ministers who went to Yugoslavia yesterday. They've called for the withdrawal of federal troops in Slovenia, the freezing of further steps towards independence, and the election of Croatia's Stipe Mesic as Yugoslavia's new head of state.
President Kučan's downbeat assessment of the situation in Slovenia has dampened hopes that a rapid return to normality might be possible in northern Yugoslavia. Earlier, the country's new president, Stipe Mesic, had begun his 12 months in office with talk of a fresh chance for lasting peace. Mr. Mesic told reporters he now hoped Yugoslavia could attain his vision of a looser federation of sovereign states. His appointment and the concessions from both Slovenia and Belgrade followed intense pressure from EC foreign ministers who'd threatened an economic blockade unless democratic government was restored.
Although we feel that there is reason for satisfaction that point has been settled, we are fully aware that it is only a first step on the road to more durable solutions.
Despite overnight optimism, questions still remain over how quickly the Federal Army will implement its withdrawal order, particularly from sensitive checkpoints like this one. Up until now, its commanders have been reluctant to pull out for fear that the Slovenians would simply move back in. President Kučan has made it clear that he believes this peace agreement will also fail unless international observers oversee the withdrawal. Indeed, some form of intervention may be necessary where local commanders will not give ground, as in this case where Slovenian militia in captured tanks face federal troops near the Austrian border.
Agreement was that they must put their weapons down and go back to their medical locations with no problem, but I don't know if these troops around us will agree this.
With many units isolated and under pressure, the Federal High Command warned of massive retaliation in the event of direct Slovenian threats to its forces. Such obstacles to a guaranteed peace are high on the agenda for German Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher in Belgrade to press home Europe's warning that the overnight agreement should be implemented quickly. Continuing clashes between Serbs and Croats illustrate other bitter divisions that have yet to be tackled. There's little talk of compromise among the families of dead and injured in eastern Croatia. President Mesic and his government may find the road to peace has far greater challenges ahead. Robert Hall, News at 10, Zagreb.
It was stalemate on Highway 1 tonight. Slovenian militia still dug in on the wooded hillside overlooking the road to Ljubljana, prepared for the worst. For 5 days now, they've surrounded an armoured column of Yugoslav troops trapped on the motorway below. The Slovenians are demanding that the army leave their weapons and withdraw. So far, there's been no compromise. Across Slovenia, federal troops have found themselves beleaguered, marooned at the border or in their barracks. They claim they've been provoked by the local people who've cut off their supplies. Tense and frustrated, the soldiers have kept their rocket launchers primed in readiness. Tonight, the army generals ordered their troops to shoot if attacked. They promised to airdrop supplies to keep the men going until an orderly withdrawal could be worked out. There's been contact between the two armies, but little trust. Yugoslav officers resent the demand for international observers to monitor the truce. Unless the military deadlock can be resolved, the peace initiative remains in jeopardy. Slovenian militia certainly weren't relaxing their defences of the capital, checking for political army undercover agents. Though the ceasefire was still precarious, most Slovenians believe they'd already achieved a victory on the road to independence.
I think that we have shown